So Stranger Things season 5 just ended, and I wanted to talk about my thoughts. So Stranger Things, all in all, I'm in the camp where I feel like it probably should have just been one season, or at the very least, it could have been an anthology series where they switched to different characters in different setting, maybe even different time throughout the show. And maybe even it can have this overarching plot in the end of like, oh, it's all connected somehow. But after season two and season 3, there was kind of like this feeling of, what are we even doing with this show anymore? Like, it feels like they're kind of just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. Season 4 is where it feels like they decided, like, okay, we need to have an end game here. So they actually... Hold on. Season 4 is where it feels like they decided they actually wanted to, like, they're like, okay, we're wrapping up the show. We need to have an actual end game here. Let's tie everything together to arrive at this cohesive ending, right? That satisfies everyone. Which is an admirable goal. It's understandable. But when watching the final season, especially the final episode, you can't help but feel like hollow and cheated, even though everyone's getting exactly what they want. Oh, that's actually kind of like a part of the disappointment that you have, because it feels cheap. It doesn't feel earned. For one, if we talk narratively, the structure, there's a difference when you're watching something that has had a plan since the beginning, especially if we're talking mystery. They have the conclusion they want to get to. They already understand the Upside Down. They understand the Mind Flayer. They understand Vecna. They understand everything already. But we don't. So they're planting little seeds throughout the season, so that when you go back and you rewatch, you're like, oh shit, they were planning this the whole time. That feels like something, right? That feels full. That feels competent. Conversely, you have with a mystery where you're sort of just going by the whims of what each season dictates. And so it's like, okay, the big bad in the first season is the Demogorgon. But then it's like, oh, the Demogorgon is just like this little puppet to the Mind Flayer. But then it's like, oh, actually, no, Vecna is the real bad guy. And it's like, oh, Vecna is actually to the Mind Flayer. And it creates this dissonance each season, because it's like, okay, in the first season, the Demogorgon's fucking indestructible. And then by the last season, we're taking out the Mind Flayer with just like, Nancy's got guns, everyone else has like fire and a couple knives. Like, I don't know, it's jarring, and it doesn't feel earned, especially because nobody dies. And it felt different in season 1 because the stakes were so much higher, because we didn't understand at the time. Barb dies really early on, and then you're like, oh shit, I guess anyone could go, right? And then they tease that Will might be dead with the dead body, and it's like all of this, like, it feels fragile, but none of that stays, and none of the kids will ever die, and it kind of just loses the narrative weight. Like, when the kids are going up against like the Russian government and like and super spies inside of a mall, it like, what are we doing with this show anymore, right? But it felt like in season 4, it's like, okay, we're actually like, this was more grounded. This was like the core Stranger Things again. But then we get to the other narrative flaw, which is trying to appease everyone. You can kind of see it in like little micro examples, like with Nancy and the love triangle. You have the Nancy and Steve shippers, and you have the Nancy and Jonathan shippers, and it feels like a writer or a team with a unified vision, I was gonna say with a spine, but I don't want to be mean. But if they have like, you know, if they have a goal that they're trying to reach, if their goal is to tell a good story and not a pleasing story, which, you know, sometimes those can coincide, but not always. They already know who Nacy's going to get with, and they make a choice with that. They say it's either Jonathan or it's either Steve, and we stick to that, no matter what people think about it, whether they like it or not. But when you're just telling stories to like appeal to the most people, you get exactly what we got. Is, oh, she just decides to be alone. You know, she chose her career, which is fine. That's a valid stance that people take, but it cheapens the entire the romance plot line that everyone had been following the whole time of, oh, I wanted to be Steve, I wanted to be Jonathan. It's like, well, everybody wins or everybody loses, so in that way no one's really that mad, because it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess the other guy didn't win. I don't know. So there's a lot of that. Everybody gets the ending they want except Mike. They leave everything really open for spin-offs, which they're doing spin-offs. Jesus fucking Christ. So even though I feel like they tied the narrative together well, I feel like it was very hollow and very cheap, and I don't feel like, at the end of the day, I haven't moved from Stranger Things should have been one season or should have been an anthology. Even if it was an anthology, right? You have these characters that you love. You're like, oh, I love Robin. I love Eddie. They could have been characters somewhere else other than Hawkins. You know, Max. All these other people. They could have been characters in a different story. They didn't have to be attached to the core 4 and 11. That's all I got.